Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Lithuanian Migration ABC. Today, me, Kristina Maldonienė, and my colleague Karolina Atkočiūnaitė, we will briefly present you Lithuanian migration processes. And this webinar is dedicated for Philippine recruitment agencies only. Let's continue with our agenda. As you can see, today we will have four parts of the event. So in the beginning, I will have short introduction about Lithuanian market and Filipinos in Lithuania. Then we will have bigger part about Lithuanian migration. And Carolina will present you all the processes, timelines, etc. Then we will have part for our partner insights. Max Isai, representative Dennis is joining us today. And in the end, we will have question and answer part for additional questions that you have, because most of the questions were you already provided in advance. Also the technical information, so webinar will be about 1 hour long, and we are recording this webinar, and till the end of the week you will receive the recording and also slides that we are showing today. Then we can continue. So we work in Lithuania, foreign talent attraction program, and we work with both talents who are coming to Lithuania and also companies who would like to attract foreign specialists. And we have four main focus areas. So our communication team is working on a Lithuanian country image. We build a positive image and awareness about career in Lithuania. Then we have our career portal. We provide consultations and analytics about international recruitment, migration procedures, and help companies to understand all the processes, how to find and how to hire global talent. And our colleagues from talent ecosystem team, they work with improvements so that talents and the companies could have better experience with all the hiring and relocation processes. Yeah, we can continue. We work with both PASE and PRIMA associations because interest of Lithuanian employers to hire Filipinos are very increasing. So we had a meeting with PASE in January. Also, we had event in April together with engineering association. And also, we all communicated with Prima. They have business mission in April and May. And we really try to educate employers about accreditation procedures that are necessary to hire Filipino workers. And we really want your partnership with employers to be smooth, efficient, and we really want ethical recruitment. Ethical recruitment, yeah. We can continue. So some statistics. So Filipinos are in the top 7 of most hired international talents. And the biggest boom is in the first half of this year. So Filipino residence permit holders in Lithuania grew by 60%. And as we know, it may reach 7,000 in total Filipinos working in Lithuania, because last year, Prague Immigration Office provided around 190 accreditations for employers. So the interest is really increasing. Some further statistics. So most employed Filipinos are medium skilled workers. It's around 93% of all hired Filipinos. And as you can see, the statistics of those 5 years. So the biggest jump, as I mentioned, was last year, because in 2021 we had only 42 Filipinos working in Lithuania. Going in the details, next slide. So most Filipinos are hired as truck drivers, welders, and electricians. Here you can see top occupation among first-time employed Filipinos. So on the right side, it's medium-skilled Filipinos. So as I mentioned, heavy truck and bus drivers, sheet metal workers, structural metal preparers, etc. And on the left side, you can see the more skilled so it's engineering, sales, marketing, electrical technology engineers, but the numbers are really, really small comparing the medium skilled workforce. And yeah, it's the last statistical information. So what about the sectors Filipinos are working? So most often they work in transport and storage, manufacturing, and construction sector is gaining more visibility. Yeah, so these were the main points about our labor market and where Filipinos are the most welcome, where what kind of employers are interested, and then we can go further with the migration part, and my colleague Carolina will continue.
So, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see so many of you joining the session. And let's just jump into it, starting with, of course, why this topic is important for you, at least from our point of view. Recruitment agencies play an important role between the Lithuanian employer and the Filipino candidate. And we think that understanding the migration process helps you support both sides more effectively. You can explain realistic timelines, you can identify missing documents early, and set realistic expectations. It also makes it easier for you and for everyone to coordinate the Lithuanian temporary residence permit procedure with the Philippines OMV and OAC requirements that we are sure you're well aware of. These are separate processes, but the timing and documents may affect one another, so it's always good to know where everything stands. Today we will focus on the Lithuanian side, of course. Your knowledge of the Philippine process combined with employers' knowledge of Lithuania is what makes the overall recruitment journey smooth. So we hope that you will come out of this as a very strong partner for our companies here. And we have also sprinkled in a couple of success stories as illustrations throughout the presentation. You can see them here on the screen right now. I would encourage you to read further once we share the materials session, as Christine mentioned. So let's jump into it. This is the full journey we will cover today. It starts with checking whether the candidate and the job meet the eligibility requirements we have here in our country of Lithuania. The employer then submits a mediation letter. After that, the candidate completes the TRP application, attends an appointment in person, and hopefully collects the residence permit at the end of this process. The final step, of course, is arrival to Lithuania and declaring the place of residence here. As a planning estimate, the process can take around 4 to 6 months. This is unfortunately not a guaranteed time frame, as document preparation, VFS appointment availability, security checks, and postcard delivery of the permit can all affect the timeline. Therefore, we suggest planning the Lithuanian and Philippine procedures together wherever possible, rather than waiting to finish one and start another. Before we go into the steps, I would like to cover some main concepts and terms that will appear throughout the presentation. So a TRP, as you may have already understood, is a temporary residence permit. It gives the foreign national the right to reside and work in Lithuania under a specific basis. So in our case, we will be talking, of course, about work, but it could also be studies, family, and so on. They're all called temporary residence permits. The mediation letter is submitted by the Lithuanian employer, and it confirms the planned employment and includes information about the job, the candidate's eligibility, and the proposed salary. It is submitted to our migration authority, which we call migration department. I am sure you work with other European or global markets, so usually all countries have some sort of employer paperwork that needs to be done before the person can come. So ours, the main one we have on our side, it's called a mediation letter. Then we have Migris. It is the Lithuanian Migration Department's online system. The employer uses it to submit the mediation letter, while the candidate uses it to submit the application for the permit. It is also used to book appointments and follow the application status. So basically, it's the main thing both the candidate and you, if you're helping him or her, would be looking at. The employer and the candidate have separate responsibilities during the application process, but both use the same MIGRE system. So the employers you work with here in Lithuania would be familiar with it as well. And then I promise the last concept I want to introduce is the VFS Global Center. It is the Immigration Department's external service provider for candidates applying from the Philippines. The temporary residence permit application process is completed throughout the VFS Center in Manila. So I think it's also important to highlight that for the residence permit process, this is basically the only place, the only office you need to visit. There is no need to go for a national visa. If there ever was a situation where you were encountering the need for national visa, that of course would go through a consulate. But when we're talking about work permits, the FS Global Center is the only office the candidates would normally go to. Then we have the concept of annual employment quota or foreign employee quota. The quota should be checked before launching every new case, as we have a limited amount of permits that can be issued in Lithuania every year. For 2026, the quota is 24,706. Sorry. And as of July 1st, 74% has already been used up, meaning that it is very realistic that if you have some recruitment at the second half of the year, basically not even the end of the year, the quota could be coming to an end. We will cover what to do in those cases and what the options are, but this is something that is very important to be mindful of. And finally, we have document legalization or apostille. Certain foreign documents need an apostille or legalization to be accepted by our authorities. We will also return to these concepts when discussing candidates' documents in the next section. And just also to place our Lithuanian work-based TRP in context, we would like to quickly compare it to EU Blue Card, as you may be already familiar with this type of permit if you're working in other European markets. So the work-based TRP is likely to be the more relevant route for many of the roles you recruit for Lithuania, and as Christina showed, main mid-level employees coming here would be under work-based TRP. It generally has a lower salary threshold, but the process may take longer. As you can see, a decision can take up to 3 months compared to 1 month for a blue card. The permit is issued for a shorter period of time, so up to 2 years, and then it can be renewed. And the annual employment quota that we just discussed applies for work-based TRPs, and it does not for blue card employees. The blue card is intended for highly qualified employment. It has a higher salary threshold, but the decision is generally faster. The permit may be issued for longer, and it is not subject to the quota. As blue card is aimed at highly qualified employees, it also has higher requirements for education and work experience than a work-based TRP. There is also some differences in family unification rules. Blue card holders can generally apply to bring their family immediately. Under standard work-based TRP, this is usually possible only after a longer period, 2 years. Also important to highlight, it's possible after the period of 2 years, but the employee must have a contract or something that would show that he or she will stay employed in Lithuania after those 2 years. Let me just take a sip. Whichever route is used, Filipino employees are protected by Lithuanian labor law, including rules on salary, working time, rest, annual leave, workplace safety, and non-discrimination. There is no difference between these routes in terms of their, safety and well-being and our labor regulations. But now we will focus on the work-based TRP requirements in more detail. So coming back to our handy timeline. We will now talk about employee eligibility. This is where the agency and employer can prevent many later problems by checking the job, candidate, and documents before the application is launched. So jumping into it, main requirements. For work-based therapy, we start with direct employment by a Lithuanian company, and the employment has to be full-time. The period must be at least 6 months. Both fixed and indefinite term contracts are okay. If it's a fixed term contract, it has to last at least 6 months. If it's indefinite, of course, there is no limit indicated in the contract itself, so it's by default fine. The employer must then confirm that the candidate meets at least one of the three alternatives. First, the candidate has the qualification relevant to the job. Second, the candidate has at least 1 year of relevant work experience during the last 3 years. Or third, the employer commits to paying a monthly gross salary of at least 2,411 euros and 40 cents. I would like to highlight for those who may have worked in the Lithuanian market before, but not in the recent months, that there is a recent change talking about relevant qualifications or work experience. Before this year, before May, I believe, you had to have both relevant qualifications and 1 year of relevant work experience. Now it's fine to have either or. Either the relevant qualification or the work experience are accepted as two different bases for work-based therapy. The qualification for experience must, of course, relate to the actual position that the person will be performing here. A general diploma or unrelated work history may not be sufficient, and the migration department may question or even refuse the application. If the annual quota is exhausted, recruitment may still be possible, either if you're hiring a high value added occupation. Lithuania has a nice handy list of occupations that we think we are uh, lacking here and that are high value. So if that's something you would be hiring, it's mainly positions in IT, engineering, and life sciences. And we will share this list in the resource section at the end of the presentation. You would still be able to hire them outside of the quota. Or if the employer reaches the higher salary threshold of 2,893 euros, then the quota will also not apply, and the employer will be able to hire the employee. Salary thresholds are reviewed annually. When sharing the materials from this presentation, we will include some resources where you can always check up-to-date information, or you can share it with employers and they can check up-to-date information on the specific requirements. Moving to proof of education or work experience, if it is decided to go with this route of TRP, the employer is responsible for confirming that the candidate has the qualification or relevant work experience indicated in the mediation letter by reviewing relevant documentation, because the employer will need to say which candidate has before the process is launched. Copies of these documents do not need to be attached either to the employer's mediation letter or to the employee's initial PRT application. However, the documents still must exist and be ready during the assessment of the application. The migration department may ask to supporting the information in the application, so the applicant must be able to provide them. If the documents are requested, they must be submitted either in Lithuanian or English. I assume English would probably be the more convenient option, but if they have them in Lithuanian, go for it. And depending on the issuing country and the type of document, either an apostille or legalization may also be required, just to show that these are legit and original documents. So the practical message we would suggest you take from this is to check document availability early, but not submit anything that is not asked for. So make sure the candidate has the needed documents and then urge them to submit them if our authorities ask. Moving to documents that will for sure need to be submitted, regardless of the TRP route the employer decides to go for, candidates should arrange and submit a criminal background certificate. The certificate may be required not only from the Philippines, but also from countries where the candidate lived for at least 6 months during the previous 2 years. So potentially we're looking at maximum of 4 countries. This is why the candidate's residence history should be checked at the start of the recruitment, so you know the full list of countries that the criminal background certificate will be needed from. The certificate should normally be issued no earlier than 6 months before submission. So if your candidate has some paper that has been issued 10 years ago, unfortunately, this will not work. It must be properly apostilled or legalized and provided in Lithuanian or English, unless it shows a conviction. If the person unfortunately has had some convictions in the past, the document will be accepted only in Lithuanian. Understandably, our authorities need to make sure what the conviction was and consider that for the application process. So they would only accept information about the conviction in Lithuanian. A copy of the certificate should be prepared for the MIGRIS application, and the candidate should have the correct certified original for the VFS appointment, meaning that with a digital application, a copy of the certificate is attached to it, and when the candidate goes for the in-person visit to the VFS appointment, he or she takes the document with them, the physical copy, and provides it to the officer there. Under special circumstances, Migration Department might decide to waive the criminal background certificate requirement. This is decided upon case by case. So if you would encounter a situation where a certificate cannot be produced for objective reasons, raise the case before submitting the application and confirm the approach with the Migration Department just to make sure it will all go smoothly. We will share some potential grounds for waiving this requirement under the resources section for your reference, so you just could understand what would be seen as an objective reason to waive this requirement. But in general, this applies for everyone. And you have heard the words apostille and legalization for quite a few times now. So when deciding whether a document needs to be certified with an apostille or legalized, the important question is not, is the candidate Filipino? It is which country issued this particular document. So it is not related to the nationality of the candidate, it's related to the source of the document. And here we share some examples of countries from which the Filipino workers most often have work experience based on our conversations with agencies, and whether documents from these countries need an apostille or legalization. So if the candidate has work experience from Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, an apostille is sufficient. Apostille is a quicker, more straightforward process and is generally preferable if possible. Unfortunately, not all of the countries have ratified the Hague Convention that allows apostille to take place. Those countries have to go through a legalization of documents. And examples of such countries would be United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Malaysia, Iran. These are not, of course, finite lists. This is just an illustration. Country-specific requirements should be checked for every case, just to be sure, and using official source provided at the end of the presentation would be a good idea as well. We included a list of the countries that have ratified the Hague Convention, and the apostille is sufficient if the document comes from there. This would be the main points about employee eligibility, and here I would like to go forward with discussing the mediation letter, the employer-led step. The Lithuanian employer submits the mediation letter through MIGRIS. The employer provides information about the position, proposed salary, employment period, and the candidate's qualification or experience. Personal and passport details are also entered, and accuracy here is essential. Names, passport numbers, and dates must match the candidate's documents exactly. The employer must also use the candidate's correct personal email address. If the wrong email address is entered, the candidate may not receive the notification needed to continue with the application. So it is crucial that the address is correct, active, accessible, and so on. That's basically what we wanted to talk about mediation letter as it connects to employer's part. And now we move on to the candidates part, which would be the TRP application and the online application that needs to happen. Once the mediation letter is checked and approved by the immigration department, the candidate receives a notification and creates a personal Migros account. It is very important, as I said, that correct personal email address is used and the candidate can access throughout the process. I would also like to mention that Migros, the system of our migration department, uses two-factor authentication, so temporary login codes and further notifications will be sent to that address. So it's crucial that it is accessible. When creating the account, the candidate enters their passport details, uploads a clear passport copy, and completes identity verification by taking a selfie through the Migros interface. At this stage, the candidate should upload the required documents, including the criminal background certificate. Be mindful that uploading redundant documentation should be avoided. The candidates will need to present physical copies of any documents uploaded to the portal. So we would advise only providing what the application asks for and not trying to strengthen it by uploading redundant paperwork. The agency can guide the candidate, and from the impressions we have from the conversations with the various agencies, we understand that that is usually necessary, but the account should remain under the candidate's control, as the email that I have highlighted quite a few times. So you can help the candidates you work with, but make sure they are, the ones in control. Once this is done, after the online application, we move to the physical part of the process, attending the VFS appointment, submitting originals, and collecting the residence permit. So after submitting the online application and receiving confirmation that it has been reviewed by the immigration department, the candidate books the VFS appointment through Migros. At the appointment, the candidate presents the required original documents, provides biometric data, and pays the applicable VFS service fee. The fee is approximately 115 euros, but we would suggest to check it if the specific concrete number is needed, just in case. Candidate preparation is very important. It should be known which documents were included in the application, and it should be ensured that the candidate brings the matching originals. If something is missing, you might have a problem. Uploading unnecessary, inconsistent, or irrelevant documents may create additional questions. So if possible, take a look, make sure it all makes sense. It's in the language that it needs to be in, and so on. The candidate may also be invited to an online interview with the migration department. This is part of the application consideration process. It is not a mandatory step, but it is a possibility that might happen. Once the application is approved, the permit card is sent from Lithuania to the VFS center in Manila. Based on current practical experience, delivery to the Philippines may take around 3 weeks, and obtaining a collection slot at the VFS center may take approximately another 2 weeks. These are just estimates that you can use for planning, not guaranteed deadlines. It can be quicker, it can be shorter. But in general, once the appointment goes well, the card is made in Lithuania, sent to Manila, and then there is only the task of getting it in hand and traveling to Lithuania, which is our next step. Traveling to Lithuania, completing the first local formalities. So after collecting the TRP card, the employee can travel to Lithuania and begin employment according to the agreed starting date. Within 1 month of collecting the permit, the employee must declare their place of residence in Lithuania. This can be done through the migration department, or it can be done in local eldership office. Every sort of eldership, like a bigger neighborhood here, has its own office and can provide a service. In practice, the employee will need an address and the necessary confirmation from accommodation owner where applicable. Usually these are the cases where the employee would be maybe renting something by themselves. As far as we understand, the common practice is that maybe the employer is taking care of accommodation arrangements, so they would help with the registration as well. It's an important step just to take place, so there is no situations where an employee arrives here and does not have an address needed for this registration. So it's just something to keep in mind. So all goes smoothly, this process goes well, the person is here working in Lithuania with an address and a permit. However, not every case is as smooth. There are sometimes some circumstances beyond our control. So we would just like to go through the most common reasons why TRP may be refused or delayed. Some delays are outside of the employer's or agency's control, for example, institutional workload or extended security checks. I would say that in recent times, we have not encountered many major delays in this regard, but they are possible. However, there are several common problems that can be prevented by just maybe talking practically with employer and addressing them beforehand. First, we have the matter of employer compliance. The Lithuanian employer must meet the legal requirements for employing foreign nationals. Authorities may request evidence that the company carries out the economic activity for which it is hiring. This would be most relevant if you're working with companies that are new or that have never hired foreigners before. They would be a new sort of client for our migration department, and they may have a couple of additional questions before they proceed with applications, so be mindful of that. Previous illegal employment, undeclared work, or other serious violations may also prevent the issue of a new TRP. So if there was some, mistakes done with hiring foreigners in the past, there's usually a period of time where a company cannot hire additional foreigners. So if there's anything like that to be discussed with your partner companies here, make sure to address it and set your recruitment timelines accordingly. Secondly, temporary employment agencies must be included in the official list operated by the State Labor Inspectorate. So if you're working with a temporary employment agency here in Lithuania, they must be officially registered to be able to hire foreigners and proceed with this process smoothly. Third, the quota may be exhausted while recruitment is still in progress. As I mentioned, it goes quite quickly. In that case, the candidate must qualify under one of the exceptions. Let's say the employee may decide to pay a higher salary to forego the quota, or you have to work with the employer and plan recruitment for maybe the beginning of next year, just to work on the timeline. So keeping these in mind and discussing them with the employer beforehand will hopefully allow to prevent any delays or undue refusals and make the hiring process as smooth as it can be. And just to finish up, we will go through some final recommendations to ensure smooth application process. There are 4 practical actions that make the biggest difference, we will say. First, validate the migration route and the timeline before confirming the employment start date. So look if the work-based TRP requirements are met, maybe blue card requirements are met in some cases, so go with that, it's faster, it's smoother. Just look at the eligibility and decide on the best path. Second, collect documents based on the candidate's full education, employment, and residence history. Do not check only the documents issued in the Philippines. If the person has moved around, if they have worked abroad, this is also relevant. So keep that in mind. Third, keep the candidate informed. They should understand what has been submitted, what they need to bring to the FS appointment, what happens next. It's always a smoother process when the person is not confused, when they are well informed and feel more confident in the process itself. And fourth and lastly, monitor the quota throughout the recruitment process and plan accordingly. The migration process becomes much easier when the employer, agency, and candidate each understand their responsibilities and work from the same information. So we really encourage you to have this resource, this presentation as maybe a handy reference, share it with the information to the employer where needed, and just make sure you're on the same page and also, of course, keeping the candidate informed. To finish off, as I promised a couple of times, we have a resource section. You don't need to remember every threshold, country, or document requirement. We have some help here. So just to briefly go through it, we have the list of countries that have ratified Hague Convention. Apostille for documents issued by those countries is sufficient. It's the official source for the list of the countries, so you can always reference it. Then I also mentioned the shortage list of high value added occupations that are exempt from the quota. So you can always check if what you're hiring, the positions you're hiring would fall in this list and then would make the process a bit smoother. Uh, Blue card and temporary residence permit process guides are provided here as well. Here you will find the up-to-date information about salary thresholds and if there would be any major changes to the processes, or even medium changes to the processes. We try to keep them updated if these two documents are on our webpage, so we really try to keep them up to date. And lastly, as we talked about quota a lot, we have the real-time quota calculator from our migration department, which shows how much permits are left. And then we have a quota one pager that briefly goes through the main points about the Lithuanian employment quota and also is updated yearly to show the yearly number. And I would say, other than also reminding you about the Filipino community in Lithuania and encouraging you to remind the candidates about it as well once they're here, that would be it from the migration ABC side.
Yeah, we can continue.
Okay.
So this was really the most important information that you need to know for a smooth process. And also now we would like to have partner insight part. So from Max ISI, here you can see the photo of Max ISI representatives who visited us in May. So Max ISI is quite experienced in hiring Filipinos to work in Europe and in Lithuania. They already deployed around 400 Filipinos to Lithuania. So I would like to invite Dennis to share Max ISI insights about experience, about maybe some tips, what they noticed about recent changes of migratory system, etc. So Dennis, yeah, can you join and share your experience?
Yeah. Labas Ritas, everyone. Good morning and magandang araw sa mga Filipino agencies here. Thank you firstly to Invest Lithuania for organizing this webinar for LT migration or Lithuanian migration procedures, and also to your throughout assistance during this process. We are also thankful that you have provided us the opportunity to share our experience in the procedure or in the processing migris. So I just want to have my first point, which is under the old process, the workers submitted their required documents to us, and the migris questionnaires being supplied also by the workers. So we forwarded these documents and the questionnaires to our employer, and the employer will be the one to apply to Migris. And also, once we have already submitted, we will be waiting for the appointment updates through email from the employer and to the worker. But for this new transition, under the new process, we will now assist our workers in creating their Migris application or Migris account for the application process. And also, we will help our workers to create their account on migrasya.lt. So, as agencies, a Philippine agency, we assist with a passport upload and facial recognition requirements if needed. Right now, what benefited them, the workers are now gaining a direct access to their application information through the platform. So employers and workers are now accountable with the data during the Migros application. And also, it provides transparency already for workers. It reduces as well dependence on employers for application updates. So there's no need for them to wait what's happening on their application in Migris, but they are already getting direct access to their account through their account. Workers can simply wait for their VFS appointment directly sent to their registered email once submissions are completed. So that's the new process for the migrees that we have observed and the difference between the old process and the new process. Having said that, we also observe some challenges like some workers have difficulties with account creation and document uploads. Facial recognition and platform navigation can be challenging for some applicants also. And system downtime or technical issues on migratia.lt may cause or can cause delay as well. That's the time that our agency have to intervene and assist our workers because there might be some risk also in case the workers may commit errors with their account creation and the document uploading. It may also cause a denial of the application. So some of our best practices is we have to make sure that we are assisting our workers and our employers from Migris creation of account to Migris application. Uh, prior to the visa interview or visa prior to the visa or for the migrants interview, we are also conducting briefings before BFS appointments and migris interview. We also assist our workers and be an interpreter during the migration interviews when needed because mostly our workers are skilled workers. So in the conclusion, overall, the new process improves worker support, transparency, and efficiency while ensuring applicants are better prepared throughout the migration journey. So I think that's all from our agency, and I hope others will also share their experiences so we can learn as well. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. So yeah, I believe that Max SI really are quite experienced. So if you're just starting your work in Lithuania with Lithuanian employers, so we hope you will take this into account and help employers and your candidates in the process. And now we will go to the questions and answer part. So we really tried to reflect your questions in the presentation. So if you have new questions which were not reflected in the presentation, if you would like to clarify something, you can write in the chat and then we will respond now. Or if the question maybe is more complicated, we will then share it with all the participants till the end of the week. So you can write your questions in the chat box. While we wait, I would just like to also thank Max SI, and it's very useful for us to hear this feedback because the migration department, they made quite huge changes to the Migros portal recently in May, and the goal, of course, is to make the process both compliant but also smoother and easier. So all of the feedback from your agencies and every other employer is very valuable in the long term because we can share with the migration department. We can maybe pinpoint some major issues if we see that some issues are coming up over and over again. So it's always useful to have this back and forth, this communication channel, and for us to try to be, a voice for you in our institutional partners circles. So if anyone else has any other feedback, I think it would be also useful to have it maybe via email or whatever is convenient. Yeah, I see Arnold has a question, but maybe you can put it in the chat because if it's more complex, it would be easier for us to answer.
Where can we see a list of Lithuanian employers to reach out in order to know their future job requirements? So our experience is that work in Lithuania, we work with associations. So your associations, both PASEI and Prima, they are organizing business missions to Lithuania. So we would like to collaborate with association. They are really experienced and they could invite you to next business mission in autumn or next year. So we would like to encourage to reach out your association and learn more because they already have experience. They already have maybe some lists of employers, and especially when employers have bigger plans for employment, it's quite a good decision to share those hiring needs and hire different kind of positions from different agencies. Yeah, maybe you can answer regarding the.
Sorry, I don't see it, so if you could read it to me.
In the chat. Okay, maybe we
Yeah.
can close it so you can see. Mm.
Course. So let me see.
Minimum monthly salary.
Yes, let me check that.
Okay, I see that someone is raising hand. It would be really easier for us if you could just type your question in the comment section.
Okay. Hello, just to clarify that 2,411 euro is a minimum monthly salary that's required for TRP. No, that is not the case. You, when hiring a foreigner on a work-based TRP, the foreigner has to qualify for one of the three, either have relevant qualification or 1 year work experience in the last 3 years, or if neither of those two are possible or are there, then the salary requirement of 2,411 would apply if the employer still wants to hire that person. So this is basically if there is no relevant qualification that you could prove or relevant work experience in the last 3 years, then the salary requirement would come into play. That's at least usually how the businesses see it, as it is quite a high threshold.
Okay, there's a question. At what stage is the Migris account created? Is it before the TRP application?
Yes, if this is the candidate's first time coming to Lithuania. So if you have a candidate that is coming to Lithuania for the first time, the employer submits a mediation letter. Once the mediation letter is approved, the candidate will receive an email notification about the mediation letter being submitted. There will be a link in that email, and through that link, the candidate will first create an account and then submit an application. If you have a candidate that has already worked in Lithuania and has a Migris account, they will still receive an email with a link. And then by clicking on that link, they will be prompted, I believe, to proceed to the application already if their account is all good, compliant, all the information is there. Since the change in the portal is quite recent, it happened in May, as I mentioned. I believe some of the accounts that were created with Migris before, they were deemed not to be fully, compliant, not to contain all of the necessary information. So some people who have been in Lithuania several years ago, maybe they will still need to go in and add some information to their accounts. But normally, yes, you first have to have an account, then you proceed to the application.
Okay, there are some short questions I can answer. What is the meaning of the acronym TRP? Temporary residence permit. It's like we call it in the seminar work-based TRP. So maybe someone joined our webinar a bit later. So when you have recording, you will be able to reach the total information about it. And also there was a question, is an approved TRP valid for employment in other countries? So no, it's related to the country. Like all this process, what we presented is related to Lithuanian work-based permit.
Yeah, just to maybe highlight, since we
Mhm.
compared it to blue card at the beginning, that would be also a difference. A blue card gives you some conditions you can fulfill to easier move throughout European Union countries. Lithuanian work-based TRP or any TRP issued by Lithuania does not have that. It's specifically a national permit that is valid only here. You can travel as a tourist, but not to go around and work.
There was also a question, are workers allowed to have multiple employers if a TRP had been issued for one specific company?
That would be something that we would need to double check with migration department just to be sure on the process itself. But generally, when an employer is submitting a mediation letter for the permit application, in that mediation letter, they indicate whether the employee will be employed by several employers. So I would assume that no, the permit would need to be changed to be able to fulfill several employers' condition. But if you have a specific case, we would encourage reaching out to maybe migration department as they would tell you what's the best next step here.
Thank you. And so there's the question, can we have the copy of the presentation? Yes, as we mentioned, the recording and the presentation will be sent to you by the end of this week. Also, there's a question, we can ask for clarification regarding the possible reasons why some candidates are not being accepted into the scheduled meeting, even though they joined earlier. So perhaps it depends to migration department. We cannot comment on this case. Okay, another question. If a worker was denied visa just because the Lithuanian quota has been reached, how true the same worker will no longer be eligible to file visa the next year? So, as Carolina mentioned, if the quota is being reached out, the worker can apply for work permit next year. If the process will start, next year, the employer will submit mediation letter, and employer will submit the documents.
Yes, just to maybe answer the second half of that question. As far as we are aware, there should be no effect on the eligibility if the only reason the worker was denied a visa was that the quota was exhausted. The person does not get any black mark on her or him because of that. It's just a formality related to the quota and not the employee. If that's the reason, if they were denied because of any other reasoning, of course, that would be something the migration department would better address.
Yes, there's another question. Does the Lithuanian government suggest minimum salary for migrant workers, or is it in the sole discretion of the business employer? So the general rule is that employers cannot pay less to any employee. So the salary should be the same for all employees in the company, Lithuanians, other maybe European Union citizens, and employees from third countries. So if they are doing the same job, they should get the same salary. It should be in the policy of the company. I see two hands raised, but if as I asked, you can type your questions in the comment in the chat box. And Eileen, if you could, we would ask to type your question in the chat box. So if someone is typing a question and we should wait, could you put some reaction? I don't know, the like, so that we know that someone will have any questions. Okay, it's quite long one, but you still can wave or raise the hand. Would you like to?
Yeah, I can. I would like to see clarification regarding the migrous interview process. We recently experienced a situation where the candidate joined the interview using the provided link at the scheduled time. However, no interviewer joined the meeting, and after waiting, the interview was automatically cancelled. In this case, does the candidate still have the opportunity to proceed with the application? Will migrous reschedule the interview, or is there any action that we need to take? We would appreciate your guidance. So unless Krishna have something additional to add, I would say that proactively reaching out to migration department to Migros would be the best course of action. We are not sure if there is any automatic rescheduling, and just not to risk it. We would say either calling or writing them in the general inbox that you have available on the migration website is a good option. Also, on the migration website, there should be a chat box function available. Real people are managing those, so you can also reach out to them this way and hopefully get an answer and some guidance from them directly. Because as Christina mentioned, we do not have direct influence on their activities. So how long does it usually take to receive a decision on a TRP application after an online interview with a migration officer? So it depends. Do we have any guidance here?
I think we just have
yeah.
like general
Mhm.
general timeline and step by step. How long will it take a migrants interview? Maybe Dennis, you can have experience, or someone from outside side, because like we do not work on this, so we do not have like practical experience about migrants interviews and potential problems.
Yes, Christina, may I have the question once again? I was not able to catch the question. How long will it take a migrous interview? A migrous interview may take only around 10 to 15 minutes, and it depends on the details being asked by the migration officer. So the more the worker is answering, the more follow-up question is being given to them. But mostly, all the questions are coming from the work experience, from the migrants application that it's um, being applied, no? So most are the datas being filled in during the application. So it should be the worker should be knowledgeable enough to answer all those questions. That's the reason why I have mentioned earlier that prior to the migrants interview, we are already conducting a briefing and orientation to our workers. But the timeline, it's the time of the interview is only around 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes it's less than. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Okay, so our time goes, and we have only 2 minutes left. So, and some last questions are quite long, so maybe we will answer them and send to all participants in till the end of the week. So we're really thankful that you joined and that you're interested to know Lithuanian migration processes deeper, that you would like to serve the employees and the employers, to be that mediator who knows what to do and how to help. We really appreciate the insights of our partners, Max ISI. And as I mentioned, the slides and recording will be sent to the end of the week, as well as the short answers to your questions. So thank you, and I hope we can have some more type of conversation next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Achu.
Awesome.